Hey guys, hi and welcome to the video. So these are some of the possible questions or the interview questions for AWS Lambda. So let's get started. So the first question that might pop up is, hey, what is a Lambda function, right? Your answer should be AWS Lambda is a compute service by Amazon which allows you to essentially run code on cloud without provisioning or managing servers, and all the heavy lifting such as logging, such as maintenance, auto scaling is all handled by cloud. So that should be your answer. The second question, okay, so could you tell me what is the maximum time a AWS Lambda function can run? The answer can be the AWS Lambda can maximum run for 15 minutes. That is your answer, right? Now, the interviewer might ask, okay, could you tell me different mechanism in which a Lambda function can be invoked, right? So for this, you could answer, basically, in general, there are three of them. That is synchronous, which means you wait for a response, which is invoked through an API gateway. Then you have a asynchronous, which is essentially SNS or an S3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the last one is essentially a poll-based model, such as Kinesis data stream or an SQS, etc., etc. So these are the mechanism or three ways in which a Lambda function can be invoked. Now, another thing a person might ask you is, okay, how many layers can you attach on a Lambda function? So your answer can be, at maximum, you can attach 5 external Python packages or layers into a Lambda function. So the next obvious question he'll ask you is, okay, so what if you have more than 5 layers? What are we gonna do? Your answer should be, sir, we could try a couple of options. The first option is essentially creating a local deployment zip package and essentially having everything inside a zip file and deploying the zip to the S3, and then using that and using the zip in your Lambda function. If that doesn't work, AWS Lambda has a new feature where you can run your Lambda functions on a Docker container. With this, now you can have much more Python packages and all the heavy lifting Python packages such as TensorFlow, scikit-learn, all these stuff could be easily run on a Lambda function with a Docker container. Okay. Now, the next thing, person might ask you is, okay, can you tell me what is the maximum amount of memory a Lambda function can have, right? Your answer should be, a Lambda function can have up to 10 GB of memory, that is 6 vCPUs. That is the answer. Now, the next question he might trick you is, hey, how would you know whether you have under provision or over provision the amount of memory allocated to a Lambda function? So your answer should be, one obvious way is I would essentially do AWS Lambda power tuning exercise. So these are essentially, you could power tune your Lambda using a step function, which will essentially show you at which place you will have the best cost and performance for a Lambda function. So you'll get a graph, and through this graph, I can essentially select the optimum memory for my Lambda function. That is your answer, right? Now, again, they might ask you again, like, so there are several other questions, right? For example, destination. Could you tell me about what is a Lambda destination? Your answer should be, if on failure or if on success, when a Lambda function is invoked asynchronously, if you want to push these events to either SQS or SNS, Lambda destination essentially allows you. What is the maximum time a Lambda can retry, right? So your answer should be, at the maximum a Lambda can retry for 3 times. Okay, so that's your answer. Some other questions can be, again, these are like very basic questions that a person might ask you, right? Then on the Lambda function, let me think about it. Am I missing anything else here? Yeah, one of the very important topic that I wanted to cover is concurrency. This is a very interesting topic the interviewer might ask you. Okay, so, well, could you tell me what is the difference between a reserved concurrency and I guess provisional concurrency? So your answer should be, again, don't go to textbook definition. Try to explain in a layman language that you know, right? So I would say, for example, the reserved concurrency essentially allows you to reserve a set number of invocation for that particular application. So the interviewer might ask, okay, why do you want to do that? The answer is the reason you want to set a reserved concurrency, because if you do not set a reserved concurrency and if there are a burst of requests coming in, by default AWS Lambda will use all the account reserved concurrency. So all the other applications that are using, they might throttle, due to which, hence, to prevent other applications from being throttled, please we are going to use a reserved concurrency. So the interview will ask, okay, what is provisional concurrency? So then you want to say provisional concurrency essentially allows you to have Lambda in a hot state. So basically, again, then they can ask you a question on hot and cold state. So you can say, during a flash sale or during a Black Friday sale event, right? You need these Lambdas to be in a hot state, ready to respond. So you can set a provisional concurrency. Provisional concurrency does come at a cost, but that essentially puts your Lambda in a hot state. So these are some of the questions that you might want to know while going to an interview. Again, another thing, they might ask you, what is functional URL? And they might ask you, what's the difference between using an API gateway versus a functional URL, right? So functional URL, you can use a Lambda with a simple URL like a webhook, right? Another questions could be, okay, where do we even use Lambda? When shall I use Lambda? So you want to say Lambdas are used in pretty much a lot of applications, such as event-driven application, creating microservices and backend, data processing, right? Real-time data processing. It is also used in the asynchronous-based architecture. Basically, when you have an SQS queue, the data comes into SQS, and you want to asynchronously process your data from the queue, right? And you can also develop fan-out model essentially through SNS and Lambda, so you can have multiple subscribers. So Lambdas are pretty much used in a lot of aspects, right? As I said, data processing, developing APIs, event-driven application, and so on. So these are some of the questions that I can think of that an interviewer might ask you on Lambda function. If you need more videos like these on each individual topic, let me know and I'll try my best to create all these contents for you. Thank you, and I hope this video will be useful for everybody.